Welcome to Nearly Racing,
a show described as Formula One meets Fox and Friends. Let's say your aspirations are higher than messing around a local track on the weekends.
Right, let's say you want to be the next Schumacher, or Senna, or Raikkonen. Where do you even start?
Well, if you've watched the show before, you know where we're going with this. The first organized motor race happened right around the end of the 19th century. Despite the outbreak of World War I and the economic disaster of the 1920s, motorsport continued to grow in popularity. The First Indianapolis 500 was run, Monza opened, the Monaco Grand Prix was run for the first time, all within a few years of each other. More countries got involved, and slowly, the events started to be organized into running championships that happened year after year. But all of this would be put on hold in 1939 as the world fell into war. The amicable international competition in motorsport was left behind for an altogether more insidious and deadly contest. For 7 years, motorsport was forgotten. But in 1946,
unconditional surrender of all German forces in Europe.
As the war ended, racing returned. And boy, did it return. By 1947, the old AIACR had been reorganized into the modern-day FIA. And in 1950, they held the first Formula One World Championship, beginning what we now know as the golden age of motorsport. As more and more races were added, and more drivers were attracted, an ever-evolving series of support championships began, where promising drivers could get experience without the high stakes and high budgets of a Formula One team. But these support series were still expensive and very competitive, and still required a huge commitment of time to travel between events, restricting racing to only the most serious of drivers and teams. So, in 1956, in a garage in Southern California, Art Ingalls built the first racing kart. Cheap and dead simple to produce, it took less than a year for others to join him. They started racing regularly in the parking lot of the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, because it was the only parking lot where the police would leave them alone. And at last, racing had come to the masses. By the early 60s, it had spread to Europe, and kart races were no longer just for hobbyists, but increasingly for amateur drivers looking to gain experience and make a name for themselves. In 1962, the CIK was founded by the FIA to organize the growing world of competitive karting. They organized the first European Karting Championship the next year, and the first World Championship in 1963. Some of the most famous names in motorsport, names like Hamilton, Schumacher, and Senna, found success in karts before moving up the ladder through F3000, Formula 3, and Formula 2, all the way to F1. Still today, karting in its many forms remains popular with everyone from F1 hopefuls to weekend drivers who just need a break from classes or the 9 to 5. And that brings us to you. Whether you want to fight the likes of Leclerc, Ocon, and Verstappen for an F1 world title one day, or just want somewhere to compete, to drive fast and maybe get a little sideways in the rain with other people who bleed gas and oil, karting is for you. So what are you waiting for?